Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate that. Today, I went ahead and decided to go ahead and talk about sustainable growth. Sustainable growth isn't about how fast you move. It's about how well your foundation holds what things are when things start moving fast. I love change to some extent, as most of us do. New ideas and the opportunities that come with that change. I know it can be scary, but in the end, I love it. It gives new opportunities to new individuals. So growth always feels exciting to me, but it can also exposes everything. When processes and procedures are not strong, these weak systems can break down during these changes. Company culture is tested. Leadership is stretched to cover the areas necessary to make the changes happen. And we all know if you're in leadership positions that sometimes working 24/7, 365, you get tired and personalities arise, and trying to work through those things, becomes tough. And when you have a staff like mine, 480 something employees, there's a lot of personalities and a lot of leadership that I have to entrust in to ensure that we're all on the same page. To give you a little bit of my perspective, I started in the gaming industry in 1996. I know I was 10 years old, right? At Sandia Casino in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I moved home in 1998, probably because my mom made me, but she didn't want me living again when I was 10 in New Mexico, that far away from her. I moved home and started here at the casino in January of 99. I did progress up through, I started as a security dispatcher making like $6 an hour, and just progressed through the different positions that came available. I'm also a Shoshone-Bannock tribal member, so the opportunity was there for me to continue to progress through whatever I wanted to try to do, and saw, as long as I wanted to do those things, right? And I ran the slot department, or in Idaho, it's gaming machines. We're not allowed to use the word slots, much why you don't see live table games on our floor. We're very strict in Idaho when it comes to gaming operations and casinos. I then was asked by our tribal council, I have 7 bosses. I report to all 7 council members. And during COVID, I was asked to be the interim CEO. Unfortunately, this position, again, I report to 7 people. It is very political, and I was not hired as the permanent person when that position was advertised, and I returned as the hotel executive director, and subsequently, I was terminated 6 months by the person that replaced me. I won't heavily go into that. You might see tears and whatnot, so we won't go there. But I spent 3 years away from the casino operations and did nonprofit work that took me through National Native CDFI, working actually for the tribal government, sales, all kinds of different things for that three years that I spent away from the casino operations. And nonprofit, coming from the casino world and knowing that we make money off of people that spend money here, and sometimes there's addiction. Going to the nonprofit side of things was really it meant a lot to me, and it gave me a lot of perspective. And so when I was asked to return and apply for this position, it was hard. It was a hard decision to make. I started back here 2 years ago in May. 2 months before that, I spent 3 weeks in Hawaii with the nonprofit that I was working for. So, Hawaii, Idaho, I don't know, January in Hawaii. Who would have thought I was coming back to Idaho weather? But working for the tribe, as I said, I'm a tribal member. Any business that the tribe owns belongs to 100% of the business, and the profits belong to every single enrolled member of our tribe, right? So every every dollar that's made has to benefit the well-being of every single tribal member. And knowing that, and knowing that I possess the ability to make a difference for not just my family, my friends, my relatives, and if you know anybody here, you always hear the statement, oh, that's my cousin, or that's my auntie, or that's my uncle. We're all related. It's true. We are all related in some way or another, right? That is much of Indian country. And to know that I would be returning to help my people and my kids, and all of those things came into play, and knowing that I had the ability to do that weighed really heavily on my mind, and that's why I chose to come back. Typically in the gaming environment, CEOs or GMs usually only last a couple years at the most, and so with every CEO there comes a new idea, a new plan, money spent because it's their plan, their idea. When I returned, I decided that, I watched this way of running business for over 20 years while I was here, and I decided that I would take whatever was put in place, money spent before I returned, to just go with what that growth was and do the best that I could with my staff that had been here, and just plan for the future and move forward. And so that's what we're doing. A lot of the changes that have taken place, our remodel over the Camas Grill, signage, and different things that we're doing around property is things that have already been put in place. I'm just holding the staff accountable to those projects being done and being done timely. And I couldn't do it without my staff. I would not be here. We would not be successful without them. Because we are a tribal business, people have opinions, good or bad. There's always an opinion for why we should do what we do. And casino businesses are highly, highly regulated. We are audited twice a year. And you could be shut down, high fines we have to, down to the T, explain how our money is spent, right? Because it is for the betterment of our tribe, okay? Along with that, company culture, right? You all know, you probably all have your own businesses or work within a business, that, company culture is very important. When regulatory, having to follow rules come into play so heavily, it's tough. It is really tough to make sure that you are building a strong business and growing to make more revenue for your tribe, and having that company culture to have employees come and work for you. It is a tough road to follow. And thankfully, I finally have staff in place that we are moving towards those things. But it's not without challenge. Growth in my world, it isn't just about profit. It's about responsibility, and that responsibility is to every single one of our enrolled tribal members. Short-term wins feel good, right? But they can quietly build long-term risk. Chasing revenues without infrastructure, hiring fast without leadership development. We've seen that all too often. If you're even familiar with our property, up until probably maybe 18 months ago, to work in our casino operations, you had to be an enrolled tribal member. Thankfully, and also to add on top of that, you have to pass a background check. So high turnover, because people knew, and we have 18-year-olds that work for us. And trying to grow a business on top of high turnover, because what did you have to choose from, right, was young staff would get paid and know that they could call in or resign, because what did we have left? If they had a good background, they had some experience, they were going to get hired again, right? So it made it really tough. Thankfully, again, about 18 months ago, our gaming commission did get a tribal resolution passed that allowed us to open that up. So if you know anybody that wants a job, we are now hiring. Adding complexity without policies and procedures. Again, because we are highly regulated, I think any business without having strong policies and procedures, that is setting you up to fail, right? Because your staff needs some direction. We all need direction, continued direction on how we're going to get where we're going to go. Policies and procedures need to be fluid to some extent. For us, with regulations, we do have federal standards under the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act that we have to meet on a regular basis. That is what we're audited to. Sorry, I don't know why that was a tongue tie, but those are our minimum internal control standards. And so ours are not as fluid as we kind of wish that they would be, because those have to be approved by our gaming commission. But it does help. It does help us along the way to make sure that we're always consistent. Making decisions based on pressure, not strategy. Again, our business is very much, it is our community's business, right? It is our membership's business. So sometimes, as you see, our Camus Grill was just remodeled. We have a new menu. We have some really great chefs. Our executive chef has a long history working outside of the reservation. He is a tribal member, has worked for Texas Roadhouse, training even, a lot of great experience. Our food and beverage director actually is trained, is a graduating student from Le Cordon Bleu, also a tribal member, very, very good at what they do. And we have, some internal, and I mean internal as far as our tribe, that has some concerns about, what we put on our menu. But it's that constant fight of the foundation that we're setting as we are a business. We are here to make money, right? So there's always that constant back and forth, and, just trying to educate, really trying to communicate, educate what our purpose is. But above all, we always have to remember our casino, our business is for the people. And sometimes, even though it gets frustrating, I still have to remind myself that I'm here for my people. I'm here to make sure that they understand that the foundation and why I'm here is to serve them, and to make sure that I'm making the best decision for the long haul, not for today. So I am very much I want to get it done today, and my staff, you ask them, I quick things, casino environment, I just want to see the project done and over with, and let's move forward to the next project. But, having to think about what does this look like for all of us, right? And we have some major projects going on. One of them you might have heard of over the years. We've been working on this for probably about 7 years now, but we are looking at a property. The tribe does own 157 acres near Mountain Home. Well, actually, it is right off of the exit in Mountain Home. That is a very real project. I'm on the task force that we're working on, getting that something tangible going forward. But it's prioritizing, prioritizing what we're going to do, prioritizing the structure of the project over the speed of the project. I get it, especially in the casino environment, creating 24/7 or operating a 24/7 operation. This sometimes seems impossible, but getting systems down so that when you scale to grow, your structure is already in place to withstand that growth. So making sure that everybody knows what it is, what the plan is so important, right? Everybody sees, and I know sometimes I feel guilty because I say the same things over and over and over, but nothing bothers me more when I go to a community meeting and somebody doesn't know what it is, what that project is. That's important, because we are a business of the community, right? What is our priority? What is the project? What is the status of that project? Because we should all know, as tribal members, we should all know what project is coming forward. One thing that I've been trying to really work on, with my staff, is that we're developing leaders, succession planning, and making sure that I'm not the person that only knows the plan, that my staff all knows what that plan is. So when I step away, God forbid I get hit, walking out the front door. God forbid. Please don't. I didn't just put that out in the universe. But, I've been in that situation where I've left a leadership role and I didn't plan for me to step away, and I didn't train somebody well enough to take my position, and it didn't roll over as well as I would have liked it to have done. I'm sure you guys are all well aware or have seen that happen in your own business, but the long-term, shifting to that long-term thinking, that is part of that long-term thinking. And that has been the hugest lesson for me personally, is knowing that I need to make sure that every part of the business has to have what that long-term goal is, what it is, and it should be written. Everybody should know what that long-term goal is. And for us, as a tribe, that has been looked at as a negative thing, that we shouldn't, it's kind of looked at as, or it had been looked at as, we are picking and choosing, we're playing favorites if we're looking at somebody to replace us, that we're choosing. But it's like, no, like we should be developing the next person. Why shouldn't we do that? If somebody is wanting to step up, it shouldn't be, and this is kind of an older way of thinking, is if that person has been in, working for a job for 20 years, that's your next leader. But that's not always the case. That 20 plus year person might not want to be, like they may be happy just, coming to work and having absolutely no responsibilities, right? And going home at the end of the day. So why force them to be the next leader, right? Because it is a lot, right? If we're in leadership positions, we know it's a lot. Work doesn't stop just because you clock out at the end of the day. I encourage building operations foundations first. Strong foundations win over time. Clear processes, defined accountability, financial discipline, daily visibility into performance. In the casino world, every machine is tied into an online accounting system where we can easily pull revenue reports. We employ 2 data analysts who provide information to our team, allowing us to make decisions for the business. We hold regular financial meetings as well as capital asset meetings to ensure larger projects are being completed. Since making this change, our business expenses and revenues have improved significantly. If you can't see your business clearly, you can't scale it responsibly. So this has been a huge change. We've, since returning, this has been something that I've encouraged is, we should all know there shouldn't be silos. That is I think that is the worst thing, especially with an operation as large as ours, is operating in silos, and we did that for years. If you're not aware, we've been in business for 36 years, and we did that all too often, operating in silos. Nobody was kind of really cross-departmentally communicating, and now, knowing what each other's doing, depending on each other, coming together and really talking about, hey, our Tuesdays, we're seeing really low numbers on Tuesdays. What are we going to do? How are we going to bring more people in on those Tuesdays? What is the idea? Hey, did it work? Is that working for us? Okay, it didn't work. Or trying, like I'm never going to say no to an idea without trying it first, right? Unless it's really outlandish. And my marketing director, I think she was in here, she does sometimes like to bring me some crazy ideas, but that's marketing, right? But I love her anyway, so we'll let her slide. Scaling isn't just growth, it's control, right? Growth without control equals chaos. And I don't mean control as in like following around your staff, making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. I'm talking about just making sure that the systems are in place, policies, procedures are followed, and that we're, again, looking at our revenues and ensuring that we're talking about, what's happening in the business on a regular basis. I think that we can all think of at least one business that seemed very successful and then all of a sudden disappeared. More than likely, they were not prepared for their success. Scaling requires systems, leadership layers, clear communication structures. We've had to make decisions where not every opportunity is worth the cost, especially when labor and cash flow don't align. So for us, I'm not sure if how long you've known. Like I said, we've been in business for 36 years. We had barely opened up our hotel event center properties in 2012. The casino was added on in 2019. We operated in the warehouse-looking building down there for years. We didn't have any debt. We didn't owe anybody anything for years. When we finally chose to get a loan to start the project here, that was very scary for our tribe. We did not want to ever have any debt. We didn't want to owe anybody anything. We were probably, out of the tribes that have had longstanding casino operations, we were probably one of the very few that did not go and, have some sort of loan to have a grand casino. And if you've been to some of the casino operations, tribally owned casino operations, like in California, for instance, some of those are bigger and better than Las Vegas casinos. I mean, they're grand. That isn't, something that we felt was necessary, but we just, even though the opportunity was there, we were making revenue that probably could have supported this type of operation years ago. We wanted, we were here, the thought process was we were here to employ tribal members, to give our tribal members jobs. I know there's been a different way of thinking, as in, no, we should be making money, having other people come and work here and give money to our tribal members. As you can see, I'm a tribal member. I'm still working for the tribe, so that way of thinking has not completely changed. And with this slide, this is really hard. I feel like, again, just, kind of with that last statement is, your organization, should not depend on you. I think we all have to, like I mentioned early on, I was fired. I was replaced. We all have to understand that we are replaceable. And to me, that makes me work harder, and I hope smarter as well, to know that, that I am replaceable. There is somebody, and I do want to train and bring the next person up that can replace me, because I don't ever want to be in that position again, to know that the person, or that if I leave, because I hope it's on my own accord, that I go to the next, bigger, better opportunity for myself, that I am leaving the operations in the hands of somebody that I've helped mentor and train to take over with the ideas and the pathway and the scaling to that next, the next level of the business, and take on the next projects that I'm working on right now with them. But that's building those leaders from within, right? And that should be, I feel like, regular conversations is having multiple people within the current organization that is aligned with you as far as what those next projects are. And for us, again, we're led by 7 members of our tribal council, and they have very different ideas of what those opportunities are sometimes. Right now, we have, some very forward-thinking, a couple of very forward-thinking individuals that want to see the tribes grow and see our casino operations venture out into areas that, we haven't, been into yet. So, you just never know what we're going to do. But it's not going to happen, next year or the following year. If you're not aware, to have a casino, you have to have, that land has to be in trust. That's a whole process. That's the process we're currently in with the Mountain Home land, is getting that back into trust. That land has to have some sort of historically been tied to your tribe as historical lands. That is what the Mountain Home area is. My great-grandfather, that is where he came from, was the Boise Valley area. So our people, some of them were moved from the Boise Valley area when the tribes came together. The Shoshone and the Bannock tribes came together here on this reservation. So we have that historical family ties there. But if we were wanting to put, anywhere else, we would have to, we can't go to New Mexico or whatever, right? Culture, my slide didn't, sorry, that slide didn't get changed. Culture as control. Culture holds the line when growth gets messy. This is kind of, for us, it's kind of a hard topic. Again, thankfully, I have a really great HR director that has been really supporting me. Again, I couldn't do any of these things, these new ways of thinking, these new initiatives, and the rest of my executive team without this new thought process. There's been several leadership changes since I've been back to the property, but my HR director has really tried to lead the charge in creating a culture shift. Again, most of our staff have been here for a long time, or are returning staff, and trying to change the thought process that, even when I started years ago, right, this was just a job. I was actually planning on moving back to the South. I wanted to go either to Phoenix or back to New Mexico. And I was only here to get a paycheck and save up to move back. And, but really this has become my career. I am still the only tribal member that has a bachelor's degree in hospitality and casino management. And I only got that because, the California tribes were doing a cohort with National University in this exact program, and I was able to jump on board with that. And then I got my master's degree because it was easier for me to continue on with that same university. And we do a reimbursement program, being an employee, of $8,000 a year towards your education, right? So this is my career. I didn't think it was going to be, but it is my career. And so having this discussion with our 18, 19, 20-year-olds, is really important, and that it is okay. It is okay to make casino hospitality a career, or whatever field it is. And, 18, 19 years old, when I first went to college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no clue what I wanted to do. I wasn't like some of the kids that know when they're 16, 17 years old, what it is. But I guess we can always do better. Any business, individually or collectively, we can do better. But this is, part of that long goal, is making sure that we're communicating well enough to know that our team is at least supporting the idea of what we're trying to accomplish here. And of course, that just communication, right? Any organization, what is the thing that everybody wishes that they can do better, is communicating. That is forever my question, is how do we do it better? How do we do it better? And that's always the complaint, is we don't communicate well enough. So I don't know if anybody has that answer, please get with me, because I'd love to hear. And then policies, just making sure policies are always gone over, and whatever. I think that it's important to include your frontline staff when you're, creating those policies, because they're the ones that are living it day in and day out. And just leadership, has to be consistent. And our here at Shoshone-Bannock Casino Hotel, our customer service program is legendary service, and I hope that you are all getting legendary service while you're here. That is our tagline. As a leadership team, about 10 years ago now, we had created that program. And when I had come back, we spent a little bit more money again to recreate it and roll it back out. And just culture is what people do when leadership isn't in the room. And I hope, again, that you guys are all getting legendary service. Growth comes with complexity, plan for it. Regulatory environments, of course, makes it really hard sometimes, but I think with communication and making sure we are communicating out what those expectations is for both of us. I have regular meetings with our regulatory body as well as our tribal council and my executive team, hoping that we can ensure that everybody knows what's happening and that whatever that growth is, and everybody's different ideas as far as what the growth is that we can hopefully talk through it and come to a consensus of what we all see as important. And stakeholder expectations, those are a little bit harder for me, especially when it's people that don't know the business and it's just ideas that are thrown out there, but we still all have to, at least for us here, we have to listen to them. And then just financial constraints, especially when outside forces have a lot to play with us. Road construction can definitely play a lot into that. One thing that I guess some lessons learned is just clarity is not always the easiest thing to gain control over. And not all of my decisions I know is popular. Discipline matters, and communication is key. Final thoughts. I would like to close with this final thought and call to action. Growth is not the goal. Sustainable, responsible growth, that's the goal. And some call to actions that I'd like to ask you to ask yourself. What are you building that will still hold 5 to 10 years from now? What are you tolerating today that will break you later? Where in your organization are you moving too fast without structure? What decisions are you avoiding because it's uncomfortable but necessary? Thank you. Do you guys have any questions?